What's up, everybody? Mike here, head trader at True Trading Group. And on March 27th, these super ultra thin, low float stocks are really starting to get out of control. RBZ today, stock recent reverse split goes from 12, 13 bucks all the way up to 40. Okay, 39. You had CTRM between yesterday. Okay, yesterday stock goes from like $5. Today it hits 18. Hunt, which was the big story of the day yesterday, which ran all the way up to $100, but that is now halted by the exchange, requesting additional information. That's going to be halted for quite a while. But I mean, these stocks are just getting ridiculous. I mean, the moves that these stocks are making is just insane, and these are extremely thin stocks, guys. Very difficult at times to get real size without getting some serious slippage on your orders. There's been times where I've tried to get fills and my order just sits there in limbo and then just cancels. I've had it's been difficult trying to get in and out of some of these plays, and they're extremely volatile. They're definitely not for the faint-hearted. Or those that might have a queasy stomach or something like that, because these stocks are moving 15% in 3-minute candles. You're talking a $10 move, in 3 to 5 minutes. I mean, these stocks are really, really whipping around violently, but they're lighting up the top gainer boards, or they're getting a lot of traders' attentions, and it's where the action is right now. The typical small cap, like the $1 to $2, $3, $4, $5 stock, they have not been trading well this week. We've had a lot of success with small caps the month of March, but this week they've not been trading great. Instead, you've been getting these insane moves with some of these higher priced small caps that have extremely thin floats. I mean, there was times yesterday on Hunt that the spread was like $5, $7, $6. The spread, like I'm talking like 81 bid by 87 offer. I mean, you're talking almost a 10% spread. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, RBZ and CTRM was not as bad as Hunt was yesterday, but they're still extremely thin. I made 3 trades today. One loser on a tier 1, one single on Seal, and then the bulk of my profits was on CTRM. My frustration with today is actually with RBZ, because RBZ was the #1 stock on my watch list this morning. It was on my game plan, and I nailed the game plan. My analysis as far as the levels on RBZ, where I was looking for support to kick in, and where my resistance levels were, was spot on. And I didn't capitalize on it at all because of the time of day that RBZ made its move. RBZ made its move at lunchtime. Okay, we broke the high of the day at like 12:15, and then we broke through that next high. We broke through that at like 1:15, and I don't like lunchtime breakouts. I try not to trade them. More often than not, lunchtime breakouts fail, and the reason why they fail is because volume is lighter during lunch, typically. And in order to get true continuation and follow through off of a high day break, you need strong, steady, consistent volume. So that's why I have a rule that I instill in my own trading. And this goes back years ago when I was going through all my stats, that I started to notice that the majority of my losing trades were happening during lunchtime. And that's because I was chasing lunchtime breakouts. So that is where that rule came from, and that's a rule that I instill in my trading, and I pass it on to all of our TTG members as well, and that is to not trust lunchtime breakouts unless the volume on that breakout is like the heaviest volume that the stock is trading at any point during the day. So this RBZ, I had a very specific game plan. The game plan worked. I just wasn't able to pull the trigger because of the time of day. I didn't trust it, and it ended up just squeezing during lunchtime and then fading into power hour. So I'll just go through. I'll start with this RBZ. I'll show you the levels that I was looking at. Okay, the levels I was looking at was like $21 to $22. This is this previous area of support. You can see resistance here, and I said when we were gapping up today in RBZ that if we can get through 22, okay, that this thing has a real shot at making a move to 37. And I was saying 37 because the 100-day moving average, which is not shown on my chart right now, the 100-day moving average was right at 37. And you can see this double top right here back from December was around 38, area 39. So I thought we had a chance to really squeeze up to that area. And you can see it's exactly what happened. It's exactly where we got to. So I was really frustrated that I wasn't able to capitalize. Now, let me draw that line back. I was really, really frustrated that I wasn't able to capitalize on this move. And if I take you guys back intraday, here's the lines. Here's those lines that I drew on the daily chart. So here's the daily chart. There's the lines that I drew. And now let's go back intraday and look at this. When we had the initial squeeze to start off lunchtime, we topped out right at that high. And then once we broke through it, we pulled in real quick. Let me zoom in. We pulled in on this candle, stuck that support, and we just squeezed right up to that line that I just drew on the daily chart. So I was so frustrated that I did not capitalize at all on this move. Could have been such a huge trade. I just didn't trust the lunchtime breakout, guys. And that rule that I have about not trusting lunchtime breakouts, it's going to cause me to miss some lunchtime moves. Okay, because sometimes you're going to get a stock that's going to break at lunch and it's going to go. But for every one that goes like RBZ, there's probably 10 that are going to fail on that, like a 1 o'clock high of the day break. So in that case, I'd rather be on the side of that trade where the percentages lie. And I can tell you from experience that it was one of the things that I was losing the most on. And then ever since when I made that change, I saw a drastic jump in my P&L. When I just stopped trading lunchtime breakouts, I saw a drastic change in my P&L. So I can tell you from experience that it pays to be on the other side of that trade as far as probability is concerned, but it will cause you to miss some moves. And that caused me to miss RBZ today. All right, so let's get to my trades. CTRM was the first one of the day. CTRM was also on my watch list here. We had the gap up. We pushed higher off the bell, and then we pulled in. Okay, and now this thing was so volatile that now that we're looking at this hindsight after the fact, VWAP and the trade line, the values of these are skewed a little bit because you see how we ended up pulling it all the way in. But when we made this push up here and we were trading up around $17, okay, I was looking very specifically for the 38.2 Fibonacci level to hold because VWAP was sitting right underneath it. You can see VWAP flattened out after we had this drop, but prior to this drop, VWAP was sitting right underneath this 38.2 Fib, and the trade line was coming roaring out of the gate, and I was looking for that level to hold long enough for the trade line to cross over VWAP and then push us up to highs. So I got long a tier 1 position right here. Okay, I got long a tier 1 position right there on CTRM looking for a trade line VWAP cross, and you can see we just never got it. I'll take it to my trade announcements. Here you guys can see I'm long a tier 1 at 16. Okay, I'm going to add tier 2 through like a $17 area, but really I'm looking for a trade line VWAP crossover. You can see it never happened. We ended up breaking down below that 38.2 Fib, and I would have given this a little bit more room, but we were going to halt. You can see right here the stock halted right there. Okay, you can see the stock halted, and as soon as I saw it was going to halt, I just banged out of the position. I got filled before the halt. So you can see, I'll take it back to my trade announcements here. You can see sold out CTRM 1466. So it was a tier 1 position. So it wasn't a huge hit. I still lost about $1.40 a share. So it wasn't a paper cut. It was a little more of a hurt, but it was a tier 1 position, so I didn't get hurt too bad on it. And guys, the way that you can tell a stock is about to halt, because I have a lot of people always ask me, how do you know it's going to halt? Because I call it out in chat. I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to halt here. And then, 8 seconds later, the halt triggers and trading stops. And everyone's like, how'd you know? You can tell a stock's going to halt by watching level 2. And on level 2, you'll see all the market makers. They're all going to come up to the same price on the bid. Okay, and you'll see all the market makers are going to fill up there. They're all going to stack up at the exact same price, and then you're going to start to see a lot of volume go through at that exact bid price. So in this case, bid was 1466, and all the market makers were sitting there, and you just had all this volume coming through, 1466, 1466, 1466, just printing. And you usually have about maybe 5 to 10 seconds to try to execute a trade before the halt triggers. So you got to be quick with it. Hotkeys obviously help But that's how you know a stock is about to halt. And once I saw that, I just banged it out. I wasn't going to wait around for the halt, the trading to resume. And luckily I did, because as soon as trading resumed, we just dropped like a rock all the way down to $12. So that was a tier 1 loss, so wasn't too bad. But I started the day off in the red. Then I came back with a TTG triangle pattern on seal. And there's a lesson on this TTG triangle that I'm going to go over with you, where that talks about the importance of volume on 2 specific areas of a TTG triangle. The TTG triangle is my favorite pattern that I trade. I have an entire course in our trading curriculum with TTG on the site. There's an entire course that covers just a TTG triangle. I'm going to go over this with you guys. And what I want to point out to you first and foremost is the initial morning high. So there's your initial morning high on seal. Okay. When we broke through the initial morning high, you can see heaviest volume so far on the morning through that high. When you get the heaviest volume of the day comes in on the break through the initial morning high, the chances of that initial morning high acting as support now greatly increases. It's never going to be 100%. It's not going to hold 100% of the time, but the chances of support kicking in greatly increases. Then you can see once we got the pullback, you can see this level starts to become support. The stock starts to hold that level. Okay, we start to bounce off of that support level. And I also can draw the Fibonacci retracement level for you here from low to high. And you can see that we've got the 38.2 Fibonacci level lines up with that initial morning high. Okay, so now we're creating the support area. You can also see the trade line works its way up. The trade line comes up here as well. And then you can see a downtrend resistance line get formed as the stock makes lower highs bouncing off this level. This is a TTG triangle. Okay, I went ahead and I entered this position right here at 311 with a stop loss just below this previous high at 305. So I'm risking 6 cents on this trade. Tiny risk, excellent risk reward. You can see here 1005, long seal at 311, stop loss 305. Okay, so back to the charts. Now here's where the lesson on volume comes in with regards to the TTG triangle. There's 2 points where you really want to see heavy volume. The first and foremost is you need to see heavy volume on the break through the initial morning high. That will help you establish the support level at that previous high. Then you look for other support indicators like VWAP, trade line, Fibonacci to also line up at that area to give you more confidence that there's going to be support there. When you get the break out of the downtrend resistance line, like you see here, here's the break through that level. That is when you need to see another increase in volume. A strong surge in volume through that downtrend line is going to tell you that and give you confidence that the stock is going to break through the high of the day and give you real continuation and follow through. When we had the break and we popped through that downtrend line, the volume did not come in. You can still see here very light volume compared to the volume on the break through the initial morning high. The volume on the break above that downtrend line is very light. Okay, so I'm on the mic in chat during the day and I'm talking to all of our members saying, gang, the volume on that break was lackluster. It was lighter than I expect. I'm going to start to peel some of my position off here because I'm not sold that we're going to get continuation on a new high of the day break. So here's my trade announcement. You can see I took some profit at 318. I sold the bulk of my position at 323. Okay, so right here is my first take profit. Right here is my second take profit. And the reason why I'm scaling out of this, guys, so quickly is because the volume was just never coming in. And then you can see we put in this big red nasty pullback tail, and I banged out of the rest of the position, okay, right here at 313. So 311 was the entry, 318, 323, 313 on that final take profit. There it is, sold out remaining 313, okay? And really, guys, it's really all about the lack of volume. You see the volume never came in on that break out of the downtrend line. You want to see this. Okay, this is the kind of volume, okay, that you would want to see on that break. Okay, if that was the volume that came in when we broke out of that downtrend line, I'd be holding on to the bulk of my position much longer, looking for follow through and continuation. But you can see we just never got that volume, and I was just starting to scale out of my position. So the volume on those 2 points on this setup are crucial. The initial morning high of the day break, and then the break out of that downtrend line. Okay, so not a home run trade, but a nice little single to kind of get myself back on track after starting the day with that loss on CTRM. And then my next trade was again in CTRM, and this one was a good one. Okay, CTRM, I started to notice after I had already exited that position, okay, earlier, I started to notice that the initial morning low was actually starting to hold a support. Okay, we broke it briefly, very briefly, we broke that level, but then immediately reclaimed that support level and support started holding again. Okay, so this support level held in there pretty well. Then we had this little pop up here to test VWAP. And at this time, RBZ started to make some noise. We go back to RBZ. RBZ got above VWAP, trade line VWAP crossover. You can see right here when the trade line crossed over VWAP, you can see the trade line became an area of support. Okay, and it just kept pushing the stock higher and higher. So as I'm looking at the CTRM trade, RBZ is making its move. And I'm starting to say to myself, well, you know what? If RBZ is going to make that squeeze move here, these stocks were trading very, very similar, then I thought maybe that was going to wake up CTRM. So I wanted to get in a piece of this position in case it started to squeeze. Okay, so I grabbed a tier 1 position right here on CTRM, and I was going to add tier 2 through VWAP. The reason why I'm in a tier 1 here is because the time of day. Okay, we're entering lunchtime. 12 o'clock is when lunchtime starts. So I don't want to expose myself max size, okay, in here at like 13 and change and risk all the way down to like 11.50 heading into lunchtime when, the odds may not be in my favor going into a lunchtime session, okay, of getting a break and getting continuation follow through. So I entered the tier 1 position, okay. Here you guys can see at 11.49, long tier 1, CTRM 1305, stop loss right around the low of the day, and I'm going to add tier 2 through 14, which was VWAP. So right here we go up and we push through VWAP. I added right there, okay, tier 2 as we got through VWAP. I had to deal with a slight pullback here, which actually got me a little concerned because, again, it was lunchtime and I was fearful that we were going to get like a candle like this and it was going to halt and then reopen from the trading halt and then do this. So I was kind of, I was a little antsy after I added to that position because I wanted us to just go, and we kind of paused there and we got a little bit of a pullback. So I was a little wheezy with that one, but you see the trade line came in, held support, and pushed us above VWAP. And on this push, I started taking some profit off the table here at 15.50. And then I dropped the bulk of my position right there at 16.25. Not being greedy with this, guys. Remember, it was lunchtime, and RBZ was really starting to go. Okay, at this time, okay, RBZ, you can see, is really starting to make its move and is really starting to squeeze. And you can see that started to wake up CTRM as well, and I just took advantage of it. Okay, back to my announcements, took some profit at 15.50, took more profit, the bulk of my position off at 16.25. So that's a nice trade. 13.05, add at 14, bulk's coming off at 16.25 is a nice little trade. And then I sold out the last piece at 14 after we rolled it over right there and got back down below VWAP. So there was my final out. Okay, so tier 1, tier 2. First take profit, second take profit, and that's when I exited the last of the position. And then I had to sit there and watch RBZ just absolutely explode while CTRM just, fell apart later in the day. Never got the juice that RBZ had. When RBZ just really got the volume, continued to squeeze, CTRM just didn't get it. All right, so that was my day. We'll see what happens tomorrow with these ultra thin, low float stocks, but they're higher priced. They're not, your $1, $2, $3 stock that's got, a million share float. I mean, they're higher priced names, but they're still very, 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 very small float, and they trade extremely thin, and you're getting short squeezes in them because of just the lack of shares available out there to trade. It's a very, very thin market. You got to be careful with your position size and really manage your risk accordingly. All right, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. Take it easy, guys. See you in chat.